Hey there, this is Allysia from Piano TV, and we're going to be diving into the second lesson of our piano series, just a really short one, where I'm sharing some of the problems that I find students face at the piano. And this is a direct response to teaching online piano courses to a lot of adult students over the last 3+ years. So it's sort of an update from my adult piano problems part 1, part 2 that I made a while ago. Just more updated to the things that I'm seeing happen on a regular basis that I think might be worth your while or interesting for you to know. So just a couple really quick updates before we get started. Make sure that you're signed up for my free webinar series this month. In August, we're doing a series of 4 webinars that are all about music theory. So you can find the link for that below and you can join. But it's basically every week we're going to have a lesson on music theory specific to levels. So the first week is going to be preparatory level music theory, then grade 1 music theory, then grade 2 music theory, and then the final week will be grade 3 music theory. I think that'll be a lot of fun. I haven't done a really intensive theory deep dive in a long time, and my webinars are always free, so you can register for that. And if you want to be in the loop on my webinars, I usually do them monthly. All you need to do is be a part of my mailing list, and I'll always let everyone on the mailing list know what's happening with that. The second announcement is that I have a bunch of piano classes opening up soon. So if you go to pianotv.net/PTV school, you'll find that I have all manner of classes opening up for the fall term. So we have complete beginner classes that go at a slower pace or a faster pace depending on your preferences. A grade 2 class is opening, a grade 3 class is opening. You can take a look at the website. All the details are there. I hope you'll join us. We usually have, really good groups. There's some people who've been taking these classes for a while who I suspect will go on to join the next level, and I can vouch for their awesomeness. If you're interested in group piano classes, definitely worth checking out. Okay, so to the video now. The big second problem that I see a lot of people make when they're learning piano is avoiding reading music. And it's hard to spot sometimes because someone can have their music kind of plunked on their mantle or whatever you call it, the piano stand, and it sort of looks like maybe they're using it, but they're not using it at all. So people who avoid music are people who mainly play by ear, and this can be tricky to diagnose and a little bit hard to spot. It's something that you have to kind of look within yourself to see if this is something that you do. So signs that someone is not reading music and is totally relying on their ear to learn a piece is, first of all, when they're working through the opening notes. Like, let's say you got a brand new piece of music in front of you, you know what it's supposed to sound like because you've listened to a recording. Now you're sitting down to play. You look at your sheet music maybe for a moment, and then you press those opening notes, and then you press the next notes, and oh, something's wrong. So then you do it again and you press some different notes. Oh, that's still wrong. Do it again, press some different notes, and there's the right sound. So now you have 2 notes, and then you work toward the third note, and you kind of fiddle your way through it. You're doing it by ear. You're not looking at the note on the page. You're not looking to say, that third note looks like a G. I'm going to play G. You're just sort of kind of finding your way on the keyboard. You're like, I think it sounds like it's going to go up. Yeah, that sounds right. And then you're building out the piece based on what your ear is telling you. And only when you get really stuck, you kind of look at the music and you're like, okay, what note is this supposed to? Oh, we're doing that, okay. And then you go back to kind of playing it by ear again. So maybe you have a 15-minute practice session like that where you're maybe glad to get your music a dozen times, but for the most part what you're doing is note by note, finding the path through what you're learning, just by what you think it's supposed to sound like, by the tune that you remember from the recording. Now, this if you're able to do this, not everyone can do this. So first of all, being able to play by ear, awesome skill, worth developing, really good stuff. So I don't want to say all this and then say, that's bad, never do that. It's really impressive stuff to be able to do that. But you are going to be crippling yourself in the future because you're not learning to read music. But your music is going to increase in complexity. So if you're at grade 1 and you're doing a lot of stuff by ear, maybe like 80% of how you're practicing is purely by ear, you're never looking at the music, and then like 20% is just kind of like looking to notes to make sure you're doing things right. That's you can probably get away with that in grade 1, maybe even grade 2. But as the music starts getting more complex, it's going to be a lot harder to pick out the notes because there's going to be so much more density. Now, it's one thing to pick out a melody, because melodies are usually single notes, maybe even the odd harmonic interval here or there. It's sort of easy to pick out individual left-hand notes as well. But if you're playing a complex Schubert piece or something where there's like 6 notes at once and then there's a fast little passage, once you start getting to pieces that are harder and harder like that, you're going to have to spend more time reading because it's going to be too hard for your ear to kind of figure out just by feeling it out. And then you're going to be frustrated because your reading level is going to be like way back at grade 1, but your ear levels and playing level is going to be like grade 8, grade 9, whatever Schubert you're doing. And it's going to take a long time then as a result because you've never really trained yourself to sight read very well, only as a kind of a like last resort function. So you're going to read these notes and it's going to go really slow because you're not very good at reading notes, and then it's going to make everything about learning those pieces that you're technically capable of playing feel like a grind. So how to diagnose this? It's just, it sounds so simple, but it is just reading your notes. I want to say, before I get into the diagnosis, another way that you can diagnose this problem in yourself is if looking at the music messes you up. So this is the thing I hear a lot, like, oh, I'm playing my piece, but then as soon as I look at the music or, everything goes haywire. Or a third way, this is another way to tip yourself off if you have a problem with this in particular. If you make a mistake halfway through your piece, do you have to go all the way back to the beginning to play it? Or can you look at your music and pick it up halfway through and carry on where you left off? If you can't do the second option, if you have to go back to the beginning if you make a mistake, it's probably because you're learning it by ear. If you're learning by reading primarily, then you're gonna be getting a better visual reference of, oh, I messed up here, and then your eyes immediately know where to jump, even if you glanced away for a second, because you kind of know where everything goes. Even if you have a piece mostly memorized and you're barely looking at the sheet, if you kind of learned it using the visual reference, you're going to have that visual memory cue. So you're going to automatically kind of know exactly where to look if you've made a mistake. Whereas if you basically learn by ear and you are used to starting from the beginning every single time, you're gonna have no idea where to look, and you'll have no idea how to get your hands coordinated if you make a mistake in the middle of a piece. So anyway, those are the signals. How do you diagnose it? The best thing to do is to just pick an easy piece. If you're in grade 3, pick a grade 1 piece. If you're in grade 1, pick a beginner level piece. Pick something really easy and train yourself to, instead of that kind of trial and error approach most people do when they're learning by ear, like playing a few notes and then just sort of like, not looking at the music, you're listening for the sound. Pick something you've never heard before. I don't recommend this typically, but this is how we remedy it, okay? So pick something you have no idea what it sounds like. And then you have to concentrate on every single note as you're reading it, and translating that to the piano instead of attempting to do it by ear. It's a simple remedy, but it's tough to execute because a lot of you probably are in the habit of just sort of like, you look at the opening notes and then you just watch your hands and you kind of fake it until you make it the ear approach. But there's more precision that happens if you're diligent about sight reading, where instead of that, doing something 10 times until you get it right, you're gonna get it right the first time. And that's a big way that you can tell if you're sight reading as opposed to doing something by ear. Are you literally looking at the note and playing the note and then continuing that process and getting nearly 100% accuracy every time you play something through because of that? Because you're not just sort of kind of meandering and finding your way to the right notes by ear. Anyway, big problem. I see it a lot. I thought I would share that with you, something to think about. Again, there's nothing wrong with being an ear player. There's nothing wrong with being a sight reader or having a strength in either of those avenues. I am an ear player. I am not a natural sight reader. I've had to really do a lot of remedial work in adulthood to get better at sight reading because this is a huge deficiency I had in my own piano lessons. So, both are good. You just want to be balanced, because if you are too much on the ear side, you're not going to really be able to do complicated classical music. It's going to be too hard to read and too hard to figure out by ear. And if you're on the too much sight reading side, that can create some different problems. Maybe we'll talk about that in another video. But I want to keep these short, keep these hopefully somewhat succinct. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for the next one. Thank you for watching.